Well, it's good afternoon here in Belfast, but I know that we'll have people joining us from all over the world. So whether it's good morning, good afternoon, good evening, you're very welcome to this launch of the CITI GENS Doctoral Training Programme, which is a brand new doctoral training programme that is being run now by Queen's University Belfast. And it's a collaboration between all of our faculties across the university and our graduate school. So if I can just introduce myself and my other principal investigator now. My name is Margaret Topping. I am Dean of the Graduate School at Queen's and Associate Pro-Vice Chancellor for Graduate Studies. And my co-investigator on this project is Maurice. So Maurice, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Yes, greetings to Belfast virtually as well. So Maurice McCorrig is my name, and I work in the School of History, Anthropology, Philosophy and Politics. And I've obviously been working with Professor Topping on the CITI GENS project, and we were really delighted to be awarded the funding for it. So this is a bit of a tag team presentation. So I think Margaret will begin, and then I'll take over about halfway through.
Absolutely, yes. We'll hear more from Maurice very shortly. But as Maurice was saying, we're absolutely delighted to have been awarded the funding for the Marie Curie CITI GENS project, which is a scheme which will allow us to appoint 20 PhD students over the next 5-year period, and with 2 rounds of applications that we'll be planning in the next 12 months. First one is now open, so hence we're with you today to tell you a little bit more about the programme, a little bit more about Queen's, and also the graduate school, because as I said, this is a collaboration between our schools and our graduate school. So a few areas that we're going to cover today in the webinar. First of all, for those of you who are not familiar with Queen's University Belfast, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our institution. Then I'm going to tell you about within that the graduate school, which is in many ways the host for this particular CITI GENS project. Then I'm going to invite Maurice back on to talk about CITI GENS itself, and then we'll have opportunities for questions at the end. The chat is not enabled at the moment, but we just so that we can manage all of the questions at the end. As soon as we get to the end of our presentation, we'll turn that back on, and we'll be delighted to take any of your questions or queries at that time. Before I start, I also just wanted to invite our project manager for CITI GENS, which is Adele Ward, just to turn on her camera briefly and say hello. Adele is the person who, when you email CITI GENS, is the person who will be replying to you. So just nice for you to see Adele.
Hello, everybody.
Thanks, Adele. So just moving on into our question about Queen's University Belfast. Queen's University is one of the oldest, longest established universities in the United Kingdom. It's also a university that has a very strong international outlook. We have 2,600 international students from all across the world, and because of that, and also because of the diversity of our staff, we have been ranked as 25th in the world for our international outlook. And that's partly about our population of staff and students, but it's also about the outlook that we have, which is recognising that we are a very strong civic university that makes a major contribution to our local economy, but we are also very significantly global in our outreach, in the impact of our research, and our aspirations and collaborations worldwide. In terms of the quality of the research experience that you have at Queen's, because we are a part of the Russell Group, which is sort of equivalent to a US Ivy League, it's a group of 24 research-intensive universities in the UK whose teaching and whose activities are all driven by research excellence. So that puts us in the category with institutions such as Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial College London. So that's a marker of quality in terms of the research excellence of what we offer here for you at Queen's. Now, I know that we have people joining us from all over the world, so just in case you're not too familiar with Belfast, this slide at least just shows you where we are. You can see that we are on the island of Ireland. So we are geographically part of Ireland and politically and economically part of the United Kingdom. So you can see London down there, southeast. We're about a 50-minute plane ride from London, and there's regular planes between Belfast and London every day. Northern Ireland is a great place to live, very welcoming place, and I think you'll find that the welcome that you would get here would be second to none. Certainly we were voted as the happiest region in the UK a couple of years ago. We also have the lowest cost of living, which I think is a really significant part of the decision making for our students, because in terms of accommodation, in terms of just general living expenses, Belfast is a good place to be. But we also have the quality type mark of being in the top 200 worldwide in the QS rankings. In terms of our own research excellence, because of course you're interested in coming to be part of our research community at Queen's, let me give you a little bit of information about that. In our last research excellence framework, which was it was in 2014, but this is a research excellence assessment that happens with all universities in the UK about every 6 years. We have another one coming up soon. But in the last one, we were ranked 8th in the UK for research intensity. In terms of the research awards that we are bringing in, these are the external funding that we get from research councils, from charities, from industry, from a whole range of sectors that reached 100 million in terms of new awards in the last 2 years. We're also #1 in the UK for commercialising research. And I think that's a really important point to make for you in the context of your interest in CITI GENS, because CITI GENS is based on an underpinning of innovation. It's also based on a collaboration with a very wide range of cross-sectoral partners. So we are absolutely core in our activity that we are committed to working with industry, with charities, with NGOs, with culture sector across the board. And through those collaborations, what we often find is that research is commercialised, and to say we're #1 in the UK for that. So that's a little bit of an insight into Queen's. Do go on to the General University website in order to find out more about particular parts of the institution. We have a very beautiful campus, which has also had a lot of investment recently in terms of infrastructure and student experience. So do please have a look at that in more detail. But I wanted to focus in a little bit more, first of all, on our graduate school, because this is the place which is the sort of central hub, which for a central hub for all of the CITI GENS PhD scholars. The graduate school is a beautiful building. You can see an interior shot of it here today. But what it is essentially is an intellectual and social hub that connects and develops and inspires our postgraduate students across the entire institution. So as a CITI GENS scholar, you would be based in a particular academic school. That might be anything from maths and physics to history, anthropology, politics and philosophy, to medicine, health and life sciences. But you would all also have access to our graduate school. And the graduate school is the place where people come together from all disciplines to focus on their personal and professional skills development. Queen's has a philosophy around postgraduate study, which is that academic excellence is not enough on its own. What we also need is a whole person approach. And therefore, we at the graduate school work in partnership with our schools in order to develop you as thinkers, leaders, communicators, innovators, and who, because of that, are future ready. So I have a short video now to show you a little bit more about the ethos of our graduate school. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a taste of our graduate school at Queen's. As you can see, it's a beautiful building, but it's much more than that. It is a research philosophy. It's an approach to postgraduate education and research, which is focused on academic excellence, but also the ability to put that academic excellence into practice, to have impact in ways that impact positively on our local communities and our global communities. So just to explain to you a little bit more about what that looks like. As I've said earlier, one of the key focal points of what we do at Queen's is to recognise that academic excellence on its own is not necessarily enough anymore. We're living in very uncertain times, none more so than at the moment. And so what we need to have is people who are skilled in agility and creativity, who have the ability to adapt to different situations, to different challenges, with the kind of flexibility that is required really at this moment for all of us. And so what we say at Queen's is that, yes, you will have a fantastic doctoral experience, supervision experience. You will produce your PhD research at the end, but we will also commit that we will have trained you by the end of your degree also as a thinker, as an innovator, as a leader, a communicator, who, because of all of that, is ready for the future, whatever that future might look like. And the innovator strand is absolutely essential to our CITI GENS project. And when we think about innovation, of course, it isn't just about maybe business development or product design. It's actually about a way of thinking. It's about having creativity. It's about being insight-driven, understanding how to manage risk, and having a kind of broad awareness of business or other contexts. That's what you will have the opportunities to do as part of the underpinning training and development programme that we have with CITI GENS. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that very shortly. The essential message that I wanted to share with you about the graduate school is that it is about that integration of research excellence and skills development. And that's what helps our postgraduate students to stand out, to make the changes, to make the impact that they want to have on the world around them. And that's really at the core of CITI GENS as well, because the Marie Curie co-fund scheme, which is funding this programme, is very much focused not just on the academic excellence, but also on how we develop people. And so for anyone who is coming on to do this project with us is part of that whole person approach. So what do we do in the graduate school? For all of our students, it's about research, professional and academic skills development. Innovation is absolutely central to everything we do. And as I said before, that's not necessarily in terms of technical innovation or scientific innovation or medical innovation. It's about that fundamental mindset, which is creativity, the capacity to think differently, to challenge, to have a growth mindset. You're also supported throughout your study to identify and pursue a whole range of careers. And I think what's the most exciting thing for me about the graduate school context is that it is the place where we bring people together from across disciplines, across different cultures, different languages, different generations. And it's in that moment of diversity and in that combination of people with very, very different life experiences and views where something really new and exciting starts to emerge. And that's the foundation of a programme like CITI GENS, which is based absolutely on bringing together leading thinkers, early stage scholars who are really going to have a transformative impact on their own disciplines, but also training them to work in a multidisciplinary environment and a multicultural environment where they are begin to understand the possibilities that diversity brings. So just to explain a little bit how this works, for the CITI GENS project, we will have you being supervised by specialists in your field, in particular schools across the university. And so you've had a look perhaps at our website already. You've seen the range of projects that are advertised there, and they are from every single school in our university. So that's where the disciplinary excellence comes in. But then, as for all our postgraduate students, you have the opportunity for that cross-disciplinary debate and dialogue in the graduate school. You have high-level training and development, and it's really that helps you to stand out. Now, in terms of your training and development, Moorish will explain a little bit more about what the CITI GENS project particularly offers. But as a postgraduate student at Queen's, you will have access to a whole range of other programs that you can do at any time, alongside the bespoke tailored training program that we have developed for you as CITI GENS scholars. But just to give you an oversight into some of the general areas that we cover in the graduate school and that will be available to all of you, it's everything from understanding key academic milestones as a PhD student, preparing you for differentiation for Viva, presentations. It's the core research skills, project management, communication, presentation skills, writing skills. It's also helping you look to the future, to the world after your PhD, whether that's in an academic career or whether, as many of our postgraduates do, move on into industry, policy, a whole range of sectors. And of course, also academic skills. And those are both for all of our students, but we also have a bespoke program, which is for our international students for whom English is not their first language. The graduate school is also about a place of kind of relaxation and community. So we have a lot going on as well, just in terms of kind of social activities. And just to give you a little bit of an oversight into some of those core programs that we do, and some of this will be pulled out into the CITI GENS training program, but a big focus on leadership, a big focus on business innovation for those who have an interest in maybe developing an idea for a business. Social innovation challenges, we are absolutely committed to having an impact with our local community. And so our students get involved in those sorts of partnership challenges. We have accreditation for all of that extracurricular participation that our students undertake. And finally, for those of you who might be interested in an additional professional qualification alongside your PhD, we do offer the Chartered Management Institute Level 7 certificate in strategic management and leadership. So there are lots and lots of possibilities for you that recognise the fact that you need to have a whole new skill set as well as the academic capacity that comes from doing a doctorate. At Queen's, as in many other universities, we have shifted our philosophy and structure of doctoral training towards a more of a cohort approach. And that's what CITI GENS is. It's a doctoral training cohort. So instead of working as an individual student, you're also part of this wider group that has a particular identity, that has particular training and development opportunities, and that works together very closely. So Queen's now has 9 of these doctoral training programs, and including this new CITI GENS program. So Maurice will tell you a little bit more about what that means to be part of a cohort, but it is essentially a different sort of an identity and a whole additional layer of value added training and development opportunities that are just for you. So just a few final points before I hand over to Maurice. Just to say, as Maurice is going to explain much more about the project itself, but as a starting point, CITI GENS, just to explain what it stands for, it is collaboration in training and innovation for growing, evolving and networked societies. That's our acronym. That's how we have our acronym CITI GENS. CITI GENS is funded by the European Union, by Horizon 2020, a Marie Curie co-fund programme. In terms of its overall conception, we are very keen, as I've said before, to link into regional, national and international strategies and priorities. And we've been in the very positive situation recently of being part of the Belfast Region City deal, which involves an award of about £365 million to help develop the region economically, technically, creatively, across all sectors. Queen's University has a particular responsibility within that for the kind of innovation strand. And that's why CITI GENS is linked into these questions. Now, the research projects that you'll see advertised on the website are not all explicitly focused on Belfast. They have a global reach in all cases. But certainly that's our foundation in innovation comes from that really alignment with the kind of regional strategic priorities that have come from the CITI deal. The CITI deal is providing a huge amount of funding for capital projects, innovation centres, entrepreneurial hubs. CITI GENS is helping to develop the human resource that is going to make all of that real. So we're based at Queen's University Belfast. The project is for 20 PhD positions in total, and we are running 2 rounds of applications. So our first one has just opened on the last week, and that's for 10 positions initially. We are suggesting that those students who are successful in this competition start with us in January 2021. Because many students will be international, there will be visas and travel issues to work through. And just to say that obviously life has changed very much for all of us, but our campus is going to be open again from September, socially distanced with a really significant focus on the safety and the well-being of our students. And we're going to have a very strong connected learning experience for you all. So January 2021, everything will be in place for you to have a real campus experience. But if there is any reason why you can't start in January, you can always come and join us a little bit later on. So I'm delighted now to pass over to Murish, who is going to tell you a little bit more about the programme itself.
Great. Thank you very much. Hopefully this works. Can you hear me okay? I think I'm frozen slightly there.
Perfect sound and picture, Mures.
Okay, that's great. So thank you, Margaret, for providing, I guess, the breadth and the context. I just want to go into a little bit more detail about the about CITI GENS and what exactly it is. And so, as Margaret has already said, it is funded. It is a co-fund program within Horizon 2020. Now, of course, many of you tuning in will be from within the European Union, and you might have heard of Horizon 2020. But for those of you who are not aware of it, Horizon 2020 is the European Union funding package for research between 2014 and 2020. And within Horizon 2020, you have a funding sort of a strand called the MSCA, the Marie Sklodowski-Curie Actions. And within that, there is a variety of schemes to help people at different stages of their research career. And one of these, a very popular one, is the co-fund. And as per the title, the idea of the co-fund is that it is a partnership between the European Commission and the host university, in this case, Queen's University Belfast. So CITI GENS is funded by Queen's University and also by the European Commission as well. And we were delighted, as I said, when I introduced myself at the very start. We were really pleased to be successful in our bid for this. The university already hosts a co-fund program called Spark, and the second, well, both cohorts of that doctoral training program are working their way through the university, or through their projects, I should say, at the moment. And we are delighted to be starting a new one in the form of CITI GENS. It is based on the idea very much behind Marie Sklodowski-Curie Actions, is to have the 3 I's, okay? And our project was framed around this. So the 3 I's are that the research is international, of international standard, that it is interdisciplinary, that it crosses disciplinary boundaries whilst at the same time respecting disciplinary requirements, and thirdly, that it is intersectoral, so it is not just confined to academia, but it has relevance to different sectors of society and the economy as well. So it's very much to encourage collaboration, and as Margaret has said, innovation is a big part of this, of the doctoral training program for us as well. And you can see the final bullet point there is just the 6 billion that was committed between 2014 and 2020 by the European Commission. So as I say, we were in the last year of the funding for that, and we were delighted to receive it. Why should you apply? Well, as I mentioned, it's the second co-fund program that we've been successful with, and we have a lot of experience, and they are really prestigious opportunities. It is not just about producing a dissertation, as Margaret said, the old style traditional PhD where you just produced a big tome is no longer what we aspire to. We aspire to much more than that. We aspire to the development of the individual researcher and various aspects of their I suppose intellectual and professional skills, and also the group context. So it is a cohort that we are bringing through in the CITI GENS, well, 2 cohorts in the CITI GENS project. Now, as things stand at the moment, we have approximately, I think it's 55 or 56 projects that are being offered. And obviously 10 of these projects will be successful in that they will be populated by the best candidates. Unlike many doctoral training programs, you don't just get your fees paid and a kind of a living allowance or what's called a stipend, but you are actually in a contract with the university. You receive a salary, and there are various other benefits as well. You're part of a small cohort who will be working together on various projects alongside your dissertation. And we have designed the training and development very much around the issue of innovation. I'll talk about it in a second. But part of the idea we proposed in our bid to win the CITI GENS funding was that, first of all, that the supervisory team would have supervisors from different disciplines or different sort of subfields within disciplines in some cases, but also they would involve an external partner, normally coming from the private sector, from industry, or in some cases from the third sector, the social and community and voluntary sector as well. That the projects, as Margaret has said, would be very much international in outlook, that they wouldn't be looking necessarily at something that was very local or peripheral. And also that it would be framed around the Belfast regional city deal. Now, I just wanted to say something about that the regional city deals are very important in a UK context. So the idea is to provide a partnership between central government, London, between city and local authorities and the private sector in those regions to collaborate to provide something that basically no one could provide on their own. So it's all about collaboration. So in the context of the Belfast regional city deal, there are 4 themes to the BRCD. There are tourism, infrastructure, employability, and the final element is innovation. And innovation is very much of those 4 themes. Queen's University has a very prominent role to play in the delivery of the innovation strand of the Belfast Regional City Deal. And therefore, it was around that idea of innovation that we designed the CITI GENS program. Now, within Queen's University, there are 4 research themes that feed into that innovation strand. So if you can imagine the cascading down from the regional city deal, the innovation strand, within that there are 4 themes. And you'll have seen these if you've looked at the CITI GENS website, and they're advanced manufacturing, the creative industries, the life sciences, and of course, information technology. And some of the proposed projects within CITI GENS fit very neatly within one of these, and some of them cross boundaries, and that's fine. I mean, we didn't want to be too exclusive or esoteric about it. So you will see that the projects cross these very thematic boundaries as well as interdisciplinary boundaries. But they're exciting. I mean, we really encouraged our colleagues in the university to put up interesting, innovative projects to offer out to the world for funding under CITI GENS. Now, as has been mentioned on several occasions, and I just to re-emphasize that it's not just about writing a very interesting PhD that may or may not be published subsequently, but we're also very interested in developing you as a researcher and as a group of researchers. And therefore, as you progress through the CITI GENS doctoral training program, you will have take part in both a cohort development program, but also a personal and professional tailored or bespoke program for you to develop you as a researcher. And we have here in the slide in front of you just some of the issues that we would cover in that first year in respect of your training and development. First of all, ethics is very important, that your research achieves the various ethical requirements. Are you going to be engaging with humans, with animals, with sensitive, difficult issues? We also look at academic writing, okay, the very basis of like what makes academic writing different from other forms of writing and literature. To start the process of developing you as an interdisciplinary researcher, like what does it mean to work across disciplines? What are disciplines? Who defines what disciplines are? And then the final 2 bullet points there are about collaboration. Okay, so how do you work with other people? How do you work with your supervisors? How do you work with your colleagues? How do you work with project informants? And then finally, leadership. So beginning the journey, I guess, to discover your strengths and weaknesses as a leader. We all have different leadership skills, and most people go through their lives completely unaware of what they are. So we want you to know what they are because it very much, I think, informs how you go about your research and how you envisage your research career developing. In year 2 then, just moving on, we get into slightly more substantive issues around managing projects. You can see there a reference to a mini MBA. So some of the key skills of business administration, such as strategic planning, the development of performance awareness, for example. And also we have a project around a social innovation challenge that runs over a number of weeks, whereby researchers will look at a social problem and try and develop as a group solutions to that problem. And finally then in year 3, we do a lot of work around intercultural awareness. Again, this relates to leadership, but it's understanding about cultural norms and how you work in different cultural contexts, whatever that culture might be. It could be an organizational culture. You could be talking about working with people from different ethnic backgrounds. So being aware and just being able to respond positively to those issues. We'll also have the global challenges sandpit. So this is the idea where we try and look at a global problem and try and come up with innovative solutions based around the idea of design thinking. And this is quite I won't say well played, but an increasingly rich source of intellectual insight into how we might develop long-standing policy problems, or complex, what we might call in my sphere, wicked policy problems. And then finally, we have the Kickstart Accelerator Challenge. This is very much about, well, for example, for those of you who are doing research that might have relevance in the private sector, like how do you go about marketing? How do you understand your audience? How do you target a particular market with your innovation and with your research? So as you can see, it's extremely rich. It's a very challenging project. I mean, if you want to do the CITI GENS doctoral training program, you know, you need to be ambitious. You need to be good at managing your time, because as I say, there's a lot going to be going on as well as your project. But we'll take you.
Apologies, there seems to be a bit of a halt with the video. I'm going to see if I can fix it.
Abroad, because doing a PhD in Chile is not very useful in terms of limited equipment, so you don't have the chance to try a lot of different techniques. Spark, which is an initiative run by Queen's University, and it's funded by the Marie Curie program, and basically is giving us an extra chance to not only work in our PhD, but also they're giving us some sort of trainings in different skills like leadership or interdisciplinary collaboration. I arrived here in Belfast in February last year, and then I started immediately my PhD, but since I'm part of the Spark program, I have been also attending different trainings about leadership and social skills, and recently we had one about our personality and how we work best. But also as part of the Spark program, we have to work also in some non-educational institution abroad. So in my case, we are trying to get some collaboration in Germany in order to increase the impact of my PhD and my project. The research that is being done here matches in a way with what I want to do in my future in terms of objectives of research. And also because the School of Pharmacy at Queen's is one of the best in the UK. And in addition to that, all the equipment that is available here, because since the School of Pharmacy is part of the Life Sciences faculty, we can in a way collaborate with the different professors around the faculty. So for instance, for my research, I have been able to work with people in the CCRCB or the CEM to do some microscopy techniques, in addition to the people that is already involved in the project. So by the end of my PhD and by doing it, I think that the chances I have to either work in a pharmaceutical company or stay in academia doing a postdoc and then becoming an academic. So those are the main chances we have by doing a PhD.
Okay. Great. Hopefully you can hear me again. I think prior to that video, I think you just had a frozen image of me smiling at you as I spoke. So hopefully you didn't find that too distracting. I think it's working okay now. But just by virtue of that clip there, I think you get the idea of the level of ambition and the opportunity that you can undertake within one of the Marie Curie co-fund programs. And we very much designed CITI GENS to build on what we learned undertaking the Spark program. So hopefully it will be just as exciting and ambitious for those who come on the project. So I'm coming to the end here now, but obviously we don't want to cover all the detail that is already available on the website and in the registration packs. But if you go to the website, I mean, the first thing to do is just make sure that you're eligible, read the key criteria, and make sure that you are eligible to apply, because we don't want people to waste their time and then to be told, look, I'm sorry, you're not eligible, you already have a PhD, for example. Find a project that really interests you. Don't be afraid to make contact with the supervisory team and say, look, I'm interested in this, have you any more details, and so on. Make sure you have the qualifications, or that by the time you start, if you're in this first cohort in January 2021, that you will have everything, because the university will check and will require this. Go through the application pack, take your time. There is still a lot of time to apply, but familiarize yourself with everything. And then you have to apply via a thing called the DAP, the Direct Applications portal. So that's basically the entrance door into Queen's for any student, the DAP. So you have to include a letter of motivation about why CITI GENS interests you, some research plan, what you want to do, what you're interested in doing in respect of the project that's been offered, and do, of course, mention CITI GENS, because the people who will be processing your application need to know that you are part of this specific PhD program, which is, as I've said, qualitatively and quantitatively different from other PhD applications and other doctoral training programs in the university. Just in terms of eligibility, we've very little freedom that these are set by. When we applied for the CITI GENS funding, we agreed to adhere by the rules as set out by the European Commission, and particularly under the Marie Curie actions under the co-fund scheme. So what we're looking for is early stage researcher, and this is defined as people who are still within up to and within the first 4 years of their research career. And also the mobility rule is very, very important, because again, going back to the idea of the Marie Curie is meant to fund people, it's meant to swap ideas, it's meant to have people moving around and engaging across the European Union. So the mobility rule is very important here. So you shall not have resided or carried out your main research activity in the UK for more than 12 months in the 3 years immediately prior to the call deadline. So just have a read of that, have a think about that to make sure you're eligible to apply. So that is bringing me to, I think this is the penultimate slide here, and this is just for your information. You can see the dates there under each of these orange boxes. So we, first of all, the eligibility check that concludes on the 24th of July. Now, if somebody applies before then, and we have had some people applying already, if there's an issue with eligibility that we identify, we will let you know straight away, because we don't want people hanging around to find out that they're not eligible as late as that, if that's not necessary. Then we check, or rather the university will check the qualifications that have been submitted. We'll begin the process of evaluating applications from the 17th of August, shortlisting in the start of September. And then if you're shortlisted, you'll be asked to submit a short video explaining your motivations and your interests and why you want to come to Queen's to undertake the CITI GENS project. And then offers will be made in and around early to mid-October, with the view to people coming in January. So that's the plan we're working to, or that has been agreed with the European Commission at the moment. Okay, so that brings me to the end. As I say, it's wonderful to have the opportunity to be collaborating with Professor Topping on this. It's very exciting. We're sort of at the bottom of the hill, but it's a hill we really want to climb. So if there are any questions or anything like that, maybe now would be a time for it to come through, or possibly Adele might have received some that you might want to pass on to us. Don't be shy, start chatting, somebody has written. Okay. Okay, we can give it a minute, but hopefully what we've presented there will give you an idea of the background, the context, and what you can expect to do during the course of a CITI GENS, a PhD. Now, so there's two questions. Yeah, do you want to go, Margaret? Will I hand back to you?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, so Jessica has sent through a question around, thank you, I'm glad the information was helpful. Jessica is asking for clarification on cohort, what exactly we mean there. That's, when we talk about the cohort, it's for the CITI GENS program as a whole. So you will work as one of 20 PhD researchers. You'll be doing your PhD project, but you'll also be coming together for this training with this sort of multidisciplinary, multinational, multicultural group. So it's the whole thing. Okay, there are lots of questions now coming through. Hold on a second. Laura is asking, do we need to make contact with the supervisor and the advisor of the project before application? Absolutely. We would absolutely advise you to do that, so that your supervisor can have the opportunity to understand what your experience is. It's also the case, absolutely, that that the projects will be redefined by you and your supervisor together in line with your own kind of research background and interests. So start that early, and they will work with you very closely to understand your suitability for the project. Okay, let's see. There are lots now.
Okay, we might take a pause, everybody, if you don't mind, for a minute.
Just have a look.
Yeah. So, Ahmed, I think we've answered the first ones there. Do you have an expected date for the second call? Yes, that's later in the year. I think it's November, December. We'll be putting out the second call.
And that would be with a view to people starting in September 2021?
That's correct, yeah. There was a question about NGOs. What NGOs have you worked with in the past, Margaret? I think on the Spark project.
On the Spark project, yes, there's been a whole range. I mean, they have been dictated by the projects, but just to think, I mean, some of the projects on Spark, for instance, we have a student working on domestic violence, so she is working with Women's Aid. We have collaborations also with international NGOs. Some of the work that we have done with projects, social innovation projects recently, has involved our working with community organisations here in Belfast, but also then taking our students to the other side of the world and having them collaborate with community organisations, most recently in a township in South Africa. So it is very much kind of global reach. In terms of who the NGO partners are in the current projects, if you go onto each individual project, click on those, that will tell you who your partner is for that particular project. So recently completed
MBA, is that the one you're reading?
Just on that, sorry, I'm not sure apologies if I'm pronouncing your name wrongly. Is it Bayeshri? You might not be, because it depends whether you've been in the UK for longer than 12 months. So quite often we do have students who have just done their Masters in the UK and actually are fine from the point of view of the eligibility criteria. That's the sort of question which we would suggest if you could email the CITI GENS address. Adele will look at the detail of that for you.
There's also an issue there, Margaret, about the compatibility with the project. So, for example, if the project is about, nuclear testing, the MBA may not be sufficient entry-level training to undertake that disciplinary PhD. Will Brexit affect CITI GENS? Well, as far as we know, no. That has been awarded prior to Brexit formally happening, so no.
Yes.
To that one. Jessica, that's great. Thank you, Jessica, for tuning in. I'm a distance learning student for Masters at Queen's. Does this go under the mobility eligibility rule?
No, because you haven't been resident, so...
You're not resident, I think.
Oh, Adele.
Hello, Adele. Hi.
Adele, your microphone is muted.
Apologies. Yeah, I was just going to answer that one. I think that will be fine. It's only if you've resided or been in the UK. So as a distance learning student, you should be eligible on the mobility rule.
Great.
Aziza Gabi, do I need to be part of a certain school? No. Not already, no.
Discuss that with the supervisor and the person who's put forward the project, and they will advise you. As long as you have the requisite skills and experience, then you don't have to have been part of a particular school.
Rahul and Sahar, I think it's the same question again about recently completing a master's. So it really depends. Yeah, it's how long.
I think if you email me with your dates, Rahul and Sahar, I can check that for you.
Okay.
3. Yes, Sahul, yes, those are all there around there. Shirley, thank you for the information. Just one question, this for international students too. Absolutely, Shirley. The only eligibility criterion is the one around the mobility rule. So with Spark, for example, we have probably Adele out of the 20 students we have on Spark.
About 6 from outside the EU.
From outside the EU, yes.
India, China, yeah.
Yeah, Jordan, so absolutely open to you. Laura,
do we need a letter from them to confirm contact? I'm not sure who you're referring to there, Laura. You might need to send another message there. I'm not quite clear who.
And people apply from all the world. Are there some? No, there are no geographical limitations. Or it is absolutely the only one is the mobility rule.
Yeah. Same again. We're in mobility.
Yeah, so you just email me, Warren, but if you've been in the UK for more than 12 months in the past 3 years until July, then you would be ineligible. So it depends how long you spent in Manchester.
Yeah.
Theo, I don't think, you absolutely would not want to be an existing PhD student.
No.
I think you're ineligible.
No, that's right. Absolutely. Each project will set out the specific requirements for it. Many of those will require you to have a master's, some not. Some will you can progress on to immediately after a bachelor's. We just look at the individual project specs there.
Yeah, I see there's a question there from, I think it's Pudlin. Is the salary going to be taxed? So yes, the salary is taxed, and no, there are no extra tuition fees. There's also an option if you want to sign up to the Queen's University pension scheme, although most students elect not to do that since they will only be in the UK for 3 years.
Okay.
That's why we've listed the salary as with pension and without pension.
Yeah. Just moving back up there, we're on the same query again about Manchester. Yes, you'll just have to email CITI GENS. We've answered that a few times there. Lee Kyang, I want to know more detailed qualification information. I'm afraid you'll just have to address the website about that. Unless you
yeah, each project has individual qualifications. I see Laurie's clarified your question. No, we need a letter from the advisor to confirm that you've made contact. We just recommend it. It will help inform your research plan, and also when your project is being evaluated, it will be evaluated by the supervisor. So, they'll be aware of your application.
Okay. And that's Laura. Rahul, I'm from India. You're an international student. Yes, but again, it's have you resided in the UK for 12 months is the query. No problem, Laura. You got that. Han, good presentation. I'm doing my master's degree at Queen's University. Do I qualify for the eligibility? Again, it
depends when you arrived in the UK. So if you want to email me on the CITI GENS website, I can check that for you. I think that's everything.
Okay.
Covered everything. That's great.
Okay.
Ahmed has asked, will there be any calls after the second call?
Oh, sorry, I saw that.
We have funding for 20 positions in total at the moment, but I mean, we'll always be looking to see whether we can apply for follow-on funding beyond that. But certainly at the moment, the confirmed funding is for those two calls.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we wish you well in your applications, and we look forward to receiving them, and hopefully look forward to meeting some of you in
absolutely
2021.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
So any further questions at all, just send them to the CITI GENS email address, which we also have on the chat there as well. So looking forward, as Murray said, looking forward to meeting some of you in the future and spending the next few years working with you on your intellectual and professional and personal journeys. Thank you all very much. We'll just stay on for another few minutes. So for any other questions, do put those on the chat. Otherwise, just revert to the email address. Thank you very much, everyone.